especially for you as the defensive coach, to have guys who are veterans working with youngsters? And what is, I guess, the overall plan with that kind of thing?
I think it helps. I think it helps on the bench, especially between shifts. There's usually a lot of communication, usually the older guy doing most of the talking, which is good. I think it allows them to ask questions and grow without having to hear from a coach all the time. And, you know, we guys in the tracksuits, we can say it 100 times, and if your teammate says it once, it usually resonates a little bit more. So there's a value there. You know, there's also a value playing a couple veterans together, you know, in certain situations. I had them out there in the 5-on-6 at the end of that San Jose game, and, you know, they both big bodies, big reaches, real strong guys, and real smart. A lot of savvy. So there's not a lot of surprises with those guys.
Does it help? Sorry. Does it help to have guys who have so many games in their back pocket, and have a youngster where they can almost cover and help them if they make the young kid mistake that you kind of see sometimes?
Well, I think they're inevitable, the young player mistake. I think that's part of the growth of anybody, and so. When we can, we like to do that. You know, sometimes you don't have that option, and, you know, I'm not sure the lefty of the York Sandheim pair. I've never been a real fan of that. They seem to be thriving on it. So, you know, you come into games and scenarios with ideas that have worked previously, and sometimes you have to change those concepts too. So, right now, it's where we're at with those young guys. I think it helps. Zamula to play with Johnson and get to pick his brain and get to listen to how he sees it and how he thinks things should be done out there.
What have you seen thus far from Ronnie Attard since he's gotten the call up? Obviously, he's an interesting prospect for the Flyers, who's been down to the minors for quite a while after getting an early look.
Well, he's obviously a big guy that can move, and, you know, a right shot defenseman, so they're a pretty coveted type of player. I think he's a real trying to please kind of guy, and I think he could, you know, sort of be a little bit more comfortable in his own skin. I think when he's positionally sound and, good stick, good body position, he gets to play offense. And when he gets a little ahead of himself, like most young guys, it tends to be not quite as effective. So, mainly we've talked about one or two real keys that I think will help him, and haven't really strayed from that. I know on the penalty kill we've talked about a few other things as well, and that's a very different animal. But for the most part, he's come in and played really well. It's not easy. These are big games for an organization that, you know, we haven't played these games at this stage in the season for a couple of years now. So, you know, that's a little bit of added pressure that comes with that, and I think it's great. I think it's awesome for all these young guys to go through this scenario.
Right, with Sean Couturier, he's seen his minutes dip a little bit down the stretch here, and I talking to him today, I'm sure that's an adjustment for him. He's a Selke Trophy winner. He's used to those hard type of minutes. How have you seen his game kind of adjust with the lesser minutes?
Yeah, it's been a bit of a tough stretch for him, I would say. And I think that the pace of the game, his strength is how smart he is on the ice. Like, he's incredibly smart positionally and with the puck. I think for whatever reason, it's been a bit of a struggle for him in those areas or in other areas, and, you know, we've felt that maybe we've had better options. I really think the rise of the Ryan Poehling line lately has really sort of shuffled the deck a little bit with us, and sometimes you end up on the short end of that stick. He's a proud guy, and I know that his game will resurface, and he'll put the necessary effort into and work and all that, the preparation to get back where he wants to.
Yeah, he said today that winning makes it a lot easier. Do you get a sense that he's a pretty team-first guy, that if he plays fewer minutes but the team's winning, he's okay with that?
Absolutely, and that's I know Torts talks about the locker room here a lot and how great it is. He's a big part of that, huge part of that. He's an example sort of guy from the professional side of things, and, you can't have enough of those guys in the locker room, and I think it really helps our young guys see how he handles this, how he works through it. And those are all real valuable lessons.
The penalty kill was pretty perfect between November and December, and maybe lately has allowed a couple of power play goals. Where do you see it now, and what can maybe be done to help elevate it back again to that, early November stretch?
Well, one of the hardest things on the penalty kill is to stay aggressive after you've been scored on. I think it's just human nature that you get back on your heels a little bit. We've given a few goals up lately. I think that more pucks have gotten to the net with some of the injuries and departures on defense. And I think the little things that go into you getting on that roll that we were on, when they mesh together, it can be the whole is greater than the sum of the parts. I think we're paying a price way higher lately than maybe some of the mistakes we've made. We have made mistakes, but we're always making mistakes. And I think we've done a fantastic job up until this latest stretch of not really, having to pick the puck out of our net very often. And a lot of that credit goes to our goalies, and a lot of it goes to our willingness to block shots. And some of that is, without Nick Seeler in the lineup, that's going to not be as big a factor. So, we have to find other ways to have success. And I think the biggest thing is just trusting what we're doing, getting back to pressuring, getting back to working as groups of 4 guys, getting pucks 200 feet and trying to help build a little bit of frustration on the power play side.
With regards to Scott Laughton, I talked to him and he said that during the All-Star break he kind of had something of a mental reset. And since then, he's obviously been getting more minutes, been scoring more. What have you seen, I guess, since the All-Star break in his game that has improved from where it was before?
I'd say his focus, and some of that's probably preparation for him. And, if he's, done that mental exercise to do the reset, then, he's recognized that there's a better game for him. And, kudos to him to do that and recognize that. And, his minutes have gone up because he's deserved them. And, it's part of the struggle through a season, right? For guys to, you have a lot of minutes, the game starts to wane, and it's a long 82 games from highs and lows of a hockey player. And the guys that are great at it, the guys that are really mentally strong and can have that focus and that resilience, I'm not sure we talk about that enough, how mentally tough these athletes are and how mentally tough they have to be, and to get through the rigors of not just the physical, but the whole mental side of an 82-game schedule.
Brad, you've got some young guys down there, whether it's Joel Farabee's never played a playoff game at Wells Fargo. Do you hear chatter, or do you get any sense of how much, getting into the playoffs means to especially some of these young guys that haven't been there before?
Well, I think there's an excitement that the games are meaningful right now. I don't think we really get too far ahead of ourselves. We're still taking things one game at a time, one day at a time. And, regardless of that, the group of games we have in the next couple weeks are fairly daunting. But when you look at them one game at a time, we're capable of winning any night when we play our A game. And that's our challenge, is how close can we get to our best game with as many players as possible, as often as possible. And, that's one of the great sort of puzzles for coaches, is how do you get your guys there as often as you can. And through this stretch, I think it is exciting for guys, and it's sort of the next step for the organization. And these key core young guys that we have, they need to play playoff games, and they need to, go through the lessons that come with 7-game series and the hardships and the highs and the lows, and everything's a little bit more, under the microscope, and and that's what's great about it. That's why it's the hardest trophy in the world to win, and learning how to do that is some of the steps we have to start taking here.
As someone who coaches the penalty kill, the 1-3-1 is a system that's used pretty much across the league. But why is it, if everyone knows it's coming, right, that they're going to do the one, why is it so hard to defend against? And how do you coach your guys to be prepared for, I guess, anything and everything that comes with it?
Well, we talk in concepts a little bit more than showing a string of 10 plays or whatever. Here's what they'd like to do. Here's the next thing they like to do. You know, we'll talk about what area of the ice do they like to operate in. Are they tend to be in the low part of the zone, or they tend to be in the high part of the zone? Toronto happens to be both. Toronto likes to move. Toronto likes to have a lot of interchange. As much as Matthews likes to shoot from that one spot on the flank, he's also at the top. He's also in the bumper. He's also on the other flank at times. So, like most good power plays, these guys are, a group that's been together a long time. A lot of familiarity, and so they become really dangerous on broken plays because they tend to know where they're going to be, where some guys that with less time under their belt together might not quite have that the ability to be a step ahead like that. So I think every team presents a different challenge as far as where their attack points are, who are their key guys. But for us, we realize it's about how we play. It's what we're doing. It's how accurate we are on our pressure reads. It's how good our sticks are in a checking scenario. It's how when one guy goes, we all trust that we all can go. These are the things that determine how well a penalty kill works, and certainly our penalty kill. We need to be on the same page, and we need to be trusting that the game plan that we've put in place is going to give us the best chance of success.
Can I just quick follow-up? Just a quick follow-up on that. I mean, why do you think the 1-3-1 is so popular, though? And that every team just kind of goes with it?
Well, I actually think there's been more variety this year. This team tonight, they'll go into a 2-3. San Jose was 3 guys low, 2 high, 3 guys high, 2 low. When you pre-scout the games and you watch them, the tendencies that they have, I would say that, and especially in the last 30 or 40 games, there's been more variety almost across the board with power plays. So I think it's part of, penalty kills get used to that 1-3-1. And so, okay, well then how do you create shot lanes and how do you create scoring chances? Well, you need to get them in motion. You need to make tough decisions at the spur of the moment. And we're trying to stay one step ahead on the checking side. So that's sort of the chess match that you have on the ice.
Thank you.
Thank you.